All right, how's it going? I got another video for you. Ohio governor says his face mask order went too far. Governor DeWine said his order went too far. So let's get into this. On May 12th, consumer and retail stores in Ohio will be allowed to reopen. This article came out yesterday on May 3rd. This video should go up. It'll probably be up on the 5th. Ohio face mask order was just a bridge too far, says Governor Mike Dewine. Ohio Governor Mike Dewine said Sunday that a statewide order mandating face masks to be worn in stores went too far. It became clear to me that was just a bridge too far. People were not going to accept the government telling them what to do, he said on ABC's This Week. Appearing from Cedarville, Ohio, DeWine told co-anchor Martha Raddatz that was just the one order that went too far. Because I think mandating orders, telling people they have to wear a mask, is like too far, like he said. But he seems like he's been like flip-flopping back and forth. And I guess certain businesses now they're like are still under the assumption you have to have masks to get in. But then there's some people that are like, well, I don't have any masks, so I have to come in there and buy them. Well, you can't come in to buy the mask if you don't have the mask in the first place. So I think there still are businesses that are under the assumption they still need masks. Then also is the whole issue too, like everything was supposed to start opening on May 1st. Then they went in like the night of and like said they were going to extend the stay-at-home order for like another 4 weeks. So I don't know what was going on with that exactly. Ohio Governor Mike DeWine tells Martha Raddatz the statewide order mandating face masks to be worn in stores too far. There's a little clip there if you want to watch that. While DeWine was one of the first governors to implement statewide closures amid the novel coronavirus outbreak, closing schools on March 12th and postponing state primaries on March 17th, he rescinded a statewide order on Tuesday requiring face masks to be worn in stores, writing on Twitter that it became clear to him some Ohioans found it offensive. Well, it's not that it was offensive. It's just you can't. I mean, there's certain things you just can't tell people to do. You can highly suggest people to do something, but if you got to understand basic human like sociology. If you order people to do it, they're not going to do it just out of spite. That's how people are. That's how human beings are. Then also going back to postponing like state primaries, he even said that he didn't have the power to do it, but he went and did it anyway. And I guess they had mail in a couple of days ago, but there's still a lot of people on the assumption that there's going to be in-person voting because there's so many issues with like mail-in ballots, and certain ones get lost, then certain ones get found after the fact, and like people that have been dead for a few years somehow like mail in stuff too. So that's an issue as well. While Americans across the partisan divide agreed that state coronavirus restrictions on businesses are appropriate, I don't know which ones you talked to about that, because there was another issue too. Like I was saying, they had a restaurant downtown that was going to open 11 a.m. on the 1st. I'm getting a little off track, but it's still the COVID stuff. And I guess they had Columbus police there saying like, because they have been slapping some people with like fines and stuff, but I guess they essentially told the owner of the restaurant if he attempted to open, that they were going to like completely shut him down and like take away his license so he could never do it again. But he had planned on having mask, gloves and everything. He had like the tables and everything spaced out, so it had been like only like 5 or 6 people or parties in there at a time. Is in German Village. I can't remember the name of it. They're talking about making like Reuben sandwiches or something like that. But there's like the businesses are like they're willing to reopen under like the social distancing stuff, even though all these other, like you go to Walmart, you go to Target, you go to Kroger, there's like tons of people in there, but they also want to like attack, or they were trying to attack churches and not let them have services in their parking lots with individuals in their cars spread out with the windows up, and they were like citing them tickets. So that's a whole issue as well. While Americans across the partisan divide agree that state coronavirus restrictions and businesses are appropriate. I know I just reread that, but going back to Kristi Noem in like South Dakota, she said she highly suggested it, but she said the government's job is not to restrict people, and people there love her because she did the right thing. Like, you can say you need to highly suggest stuff, but like the government and government officials can't become tyrannical and overstep their powers. So, a new ABC News something poll shows Democrats are more concerned about contracting the virus, while Republican respondents would be more likely to get out if the rules changed. Well, here's the thing. People are still out and about. This whole idea that like, oh, you're like, there's like certain people telling people that, oh, you need to stay home and you need a bunker and quarantine, but it's under the presumption that they're saying that, but also they want people out there working, like picking the food, shipping the food, stocking the food, as long as their needs are met, and they're able to get what they want through the grocery store, through Amazon shipping stuff. It's like, it's a very selfish, self-centered kind of like idea. It's like, oh, you need to stay home unless you're going to like, unless you're a service I need you to provide me with. So it's a very like self-centered, caring thing that you're like, oh, people need to get to work because they can't pay their mortgage, they can't pay their food. Food banks are running low. Like, oh, do you want people to die? Do you want people to die? I'm like, well, do you? If they can't pay their bill and they end up like not getting food and like become homeless and starve, well, that's the same thing too. Then they could also say that like, oh, well, you can't get evicted or like foreclosed on in this amount of time, which they have a thing put in that they're pushing it to 3 months. But if your mortgage is $2,000 a month, for example, and it gets pushed to the 4th month, that you owe the 3 previous months and also that 4th month, so $8,000 become due at that moment in time. And if you're still out of business, then you're screwed, because they're like, there's certain businesses that are becoming open. I think there's a woman that's opening her hair salon in Texas, and she was getting like citations of possible jail time, and she's only like letting in a person like at a time, and they were doing the proper PPE. There was a tattoo shop owner in North Carolina, I believe, and he got arrested because he's opening his shops. It doesn't matter if they are following the cleanliness, but like the way they have certain things set up is like certain, you can still buy your liquor, buy your weed, get your lottery ticket. But if you don't fall into a certain thing, they're like, no, it doesn't make sense. It's like they're like picking and choosing what is and isn't. Like, these big corporations are able to run their things, but if it's a small mom and pop shop that has grocery and stuff, like there's certain ones of those that are getting closed as well. Because there was another thing that I saw too. I guess it was like it was a guy that I can't remember his name, but he was like he had a store that was like comic books and stuff, I believe. So he's like, he had like the store closed, but he's like going and delivering, certain things that people were like ordering, such as certain food deliveries and like Amazon. But for some reason I believe I can't remember if he got arrested or he got cited or something like that. But he's doing the same thing these other companies are doing, but just because he's like a small business owner, he was getting fined for it. I mean, I went out yesterday and I did food deliveries on a bike for like an ice cream shop, for Chipotle, and all this other stuff, and like pizza shops and stuff. But like for some reason, certain things are fine and certain things are not, and they're kind of like arbitrary in their reasonings for it. So that was kind of my little rant, but we'll get back into this. I think generally Republicans are less inclined. Democrats are more concerned about contracting the virus, while Republican respondents would be more likely to get out if and when the rules change. I mean, whether that depends, Republicans are more of the business owners or not, I'm not sure. I know 54% of the businesses in America are small businesses, and that's 500 people or less, which qualifies as a small business. I think generally Republicans are less inclined to have the government tell them what to do, and that's generally how I am. I'm a conservative Republican. He hasn't been acting that way lately. I think we're better off not having the government tell us what to do. As states across the country have started to relax stay-at-home orders, governors have had to balance public health with economic considerations. Ohio's Department of Health reported 19,000 cases of COVID-19 with over 1,000 related deaths. Is that new? Because it was not like that just the other day. In the state, and the Department of Jobs and Family Services has announced that over 1 million residents have lost their jobs since the beginning of the crisis, which is, I believe it's, I think it's over like 10% of the Ohio's population is technically unemployed now. I told Ohioans Friday, I said we can do two things at once, Dewine told Raddatz. He announced a phased approach to reopening Ohio last week. The state will allow manufacturing and construction businesses to resume work Monday. Resume work Monday. On May 12th, consumer and retail stores will also be allowed. Well, I went down. I said I was like working downtown yesterday. It seemed like there's a ton of construction going on. Like just like North High Street the road is like terrible. Where they've done so much construction down there, it's like all ripped up and steel plates and random like cement and stuff. But I mean, you can like highly suggest people and businesses to do stuff, but you can't just straight out order and mandate that as well. Despite canceling the face mask order, DeWine still urged his constituents to wear coverings. Face masks are very important, and our business group came back and said every employee, for example, should wear a face mask, so we're continuing that, whether it's retail or wholesale, whatever it is, manufacturing, every employee's got to have a face mask, he said Sunday. Well, if we're going into that, well, if you look here, none of them have face masks. There's also a big issue, too, with people are getting pissed at like Dr. Amy Action because she's somebody that was not an elected official and is signing these orders like mandating all this stuff, essentially destroying people's lives and people's businesses and their income. And there's certain businesses that are like just because of this are not going to be able to. There's like jobs that are like lost permanently. They're like they're not going to be able to come back. When pressed by Raddatz whether he would revert to stricter social distance orders if the outbreak worsened again in his state, he said, we'll have to take action. We got to bring the economy back, but we also have to continue to protect people, he said. You need to care about the deaths, but also another issue is like how the CDC and other, like, I guess something that came up today was like, there was like a wording thing is like people that died from COVID deaths and people that died with COVID deaths. There's like all these numbers and stuff. Like, it seems like they're padding the numbers because in New York, they had like 3,700 deaths and they had no idea whether it was COVID deaths. And they just like, oh, we just presume they're COVID deaths. We're not going to test it or anything. So we just kind of threw 3,700 deaths in there in one day. And somehow, like, miraculously, like, heart attacks and pneumonia deaths have become almost like non-existent. And it's like, there's like other people are saying like, oh, well, if they test for COVID, even if they 6 months ago were like given a 6-month sentence because of cancer, we're counting that as a COVID death. And it's like these state agencies are like getting more funding from the federal government if they have more COVID deaths. But also, I think I heard too, there was some places that were like kind of revisiting and revising the numbers and starting to actually try to split out what was actually COVID and what was other stuff. So the COVID deaths are actually retrospectively like going down. Like there needs to be like true there needs to be true numbers given, so there's like not this kind of like deceit or this like untrust of the government and the CDC and their numbers. And the whole thing they're trying to like say you need, like, I think it's like Facebook or YouTube or both. They're like, oh, we got to go with what the World Health Organization said, even though they seemed like they were either incompetent or they were like in bed with China, and they were waiting like 6 or 7 days, knowing that there was human-to-human transmission of the COVID virus. But they like put out tweets and stuff saying that no, it wasn't. Don't worry about it. And then you have like Nancy Pelosi, and I think there was it De Blasio in New York? It's like, go to Chinatown and all this other stuff. Then like a couple of days or a week later, it's like, oh no, everybody has to be, you got to stay at home. They're like, going out, quit being xenophobic, quit being racist towards, Asian Americans, and quit calling it the Chinese virus, even though it originated from Wuhan, China, like Lyme disease and Ebola and Zeke and all this other stuff. But yeah, I think I'll call it. I think I'll end that little video there. So, if you want to support me, you can on Subscribestar. Obviously, you can't. Don't do it. But if you can, that's great. I'm trying to get T-shirts up at some point. I keep saying that, but I haven't gone through and done it yet. But if you're on YouTube, if you want to give me a like, you give me a like. Really liked it, you can subscribe. On Facebook, you can give me a like and a follow if you want to. And I think that's it. All right. Peace.